Okay, so Vanessa and Xander, you two are married and you teamed up together. So, Vanessa, you have a sex therapy practice, but Xander, as you put it, you are a quote, regular dude who left a cushy career in tech once he realized it was more fun to talk about sex with his wife all day.
It
So,
definitely is.
what went into the decision to start this together?
So I started this business on my own. I was always very interested in sex therapy. It really went back to my parents' very awkward attempt at trying to give me the talk. That was the inspiration. We've come full circle now with Sex Talks, the book. And so I started this practice on my own, and I started building out online courses because it was really a goal of mine to be able to serve as many people as I could and just spread my information and techniques out as far and wide as I could. And so Xander initially joined the business to help out with the operations, like help run everything from the back end so that I could focus on the content and the message and all of that. And I just had this nagging feeling in the back of my head that there's something really valuable about us being able to talk about our own relationship and our own sex life as a couple. And especially because we've had ups and downs in our relationship. Like, I think we've gone through so many things that so many couples in long-term relationships can relate to, like that feeling of the spark going out and wondering, like, why does sex feel so complicated now? So I asked Xander to kind of come in front of the camera with me and start talking about things, and he was not into it.
At first.
Really?
I had my own hesitations and I had my own hangups. I mean, backing up a little bit, when Vanessa and I first met, she was in training to be doing this. And I thought that was super cool. Like, what guy doesn't want to go tell their guy friends, like, hey, I'm dating a future sex therapist, right? Like, oh, the sex must be super good. But the reality, like, most people experience, you get into a relationship, everything's really hot and heavy, and then life catches up and it's not so hot and heavy anymore. And I didn't know how to handle that. I thought that I was supposed to kind of be running the show when it came to sex. I'm a guy, I'm supposed to always want it. And then I found myself in that situation where I wasn't always wanting it. It was causing problems in our relationship. And so, we worked on all of that. We went to therapy. We did a lot of stuff around that. Our relationship is very different now. But, when she was asking me if I wanted to be involved, I'm looking at the years of school that she went to, all her like licensing hours, getting licensed, building this business. I'm like, who wants to hear from me? I don't have any training. I don't have anything to say that she wouldn't already say. But I started to realize that, yeah, people do want to hear just the regular person's perspective. People want to hear what you've actually done in your relationship. And so Vanessa started, asking me to get involved in Instagram stories here and there. And she'd give me all the positive feedback that people would send. Like, oh, it's so nice to hear a guy's perspective, or it's so nice to hear just what you guys do in your relationship. Right. It feels so much more real than just hearing like the professional telling you what to do. So that was how I started to get involved. And yeah, now it's kind of a whole 50-50 thing. We just do it all together.
Have you set up any boundaries of what you're willing or not willing to share, or is it a free for all?
We do have some boundaries around it. Basically, what we do is we have a no questions asked veto policy. So at any point, for any reason, if either one of us feels uncomfortable posting something, we can just say, I don't want to. And that's it. We both respect each other's boundaries in that way. But I think what we've learned along the way, from starting off from Xander saying, hell no, I don't want to get in front of the camera with you, to this point now where, this book that we wrote, the first page of the book is us talking about going to therapy. We have this Instagram account where we talk about all of our ups and downs of our sex life and some of our most embarrassing moments. But what we've realized is that people really value being able to hear these open and honest and vulnerable conversations. And I think when we take the lead and we are vulnerable and we share, like, hey, here's something that we're really struggling with, or here's something that we really messed up and how we got back on track. I think it helps people feel not alone. It helps them feel like they're normal and it's okay for them to be struggling with those things in their relationship too. And so when we get that feedback from people, it really motivates us to keep going, to keep being vulnerable.
Have you ever used the veto power?
Oh, yes,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, we have.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that we won't talk about is how often we have sex. So we'll talk about all sorts of other details about our sex lives, but we've found, people get really fixated on this idea of how much sex should we be having.
And that therefore, whatever we do must be the right number because we look so happy and perfect, right?
But we're really big believers that there is no magic number, and that just because we have sex a certain amount of times in this particular season of life, that doesn't mean that's going to work for everybody. So that's an example of something that we've vetoed talking about.
Yeah, we also, I think we also are really careful to, we talk about issues that we have, we talk about arguments that we have, but we don't like to talk about like, if we are in the middle of an argument, like we don't want to put people on social. I'm not going to go
onto Instagram and be like, this motherfucker, like you will not believe what he just did to me. Like,
yeah, like
that seems toxic.
Yeah,
and we don't want to, we don't want the vibe where it's like we're putting people on Instagram in the middle of our,
it's once it's processed.
Yeah.
So this seems like a really basic question, but what is your philosophy on why sex is so important in relationships?
Sex is a way that we show each other love, that we connect with each other. I think it's very easy for us to think of sex as just this purely physical act, and it can be in dating or in casual relationships. But when you're having sex with somebody that you really care about, sex is an expression of that love. And I think sex is also a way that we get to play with each other, like that we can explore new things, explore our bodies, explore the energy that we bring in with each other. So it's really a form of expression.
I've heard Esther Perel talk about it as theatrics, which I find interesting because there is an element of creativity to it. What does it mean to have great sex?
This is a question that I think everybody has to answer for themselves. And it's a really interesting question to ask people because so few of us have actually taken the time to think about it. Like we all want great sex. If you go up to some random person on the street and say, hey, do you want to have a great sex life? They're like, yeah, duh. But then if you ask them, okay, what does that mean to you? What does that actually look like?
But doesn't it change?
Yeah, it absolutely can change too. Like the ways that I defined great sex in my 20s are very different from how I defined great sex approaching my 40s.
Yeah, because I think the problem is if we don't ever define it for ourselves, we default to assuming that there's sort of this objective measure of great sex. And that's like what we see on TV or in the movies. And what we see portrayed there is super unrealistic, right? And so we're expecting something that we are never actually going to be able to get. And so I think that's the problem.
You know, what's funny is I thought I was having great sex in my 20s. And then you get older and you're like, no, that wasn't good. So I think it does sort of develop over time, hopefully.
Yeah. So I think that's just a great homework assignment to anyone listening to this episode. Like after the episode's done, just take a little bit of time to think to yourself, like, what does great sex mean to me? And so it can be the actual, like, here are the things that I like to do during sex, but there's also this huge energetic component to it too. Like, what kind of energy do you like to show up with during sex? What kind of energy do you like your partner to show up with? What kind of energy do you like to co-create together?
I think one of the funny things about sex that is different than almost anything else is we all love to talk about it. And also we're all afraid to talk about it. And I'm so curious, Vanessa, in your practice, what you've learned most people struggle to when it comes to communication about sex.
We just struggle to talk about it in open and honest ways. So I think it's, a lot of times we have this mental image of like, oh, girlfriends at brunch, and we're all kind of like gossiping about the guy that we're dating or, the hot sex that we had with so-and-so over the weekend. But a lot of people will actually tell me like, I feel like I can't be genuine and authentic with even my closest friends. So I've had a lot of people tell me, I've never had an orgasm, but I tell my friends like, oh yeah, I'm orgasming all the time. No big deal. Or, saying that you're having more sex than you're actually having. So I find it fascinating that even with our closest friends, even with the people that we divulge so many other vulnerable things about our lives, so many of us are actually lying or concealing the truth from our closest friends.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a topic. It's really almost the same as money, which is another very taboo topic that we don't like to talk about, yet we do like to talk about it. And just like money, I think with sex, there's almost this socially agreed upon script that we have where it's like, yeah, like it's okay to tell your friends, yeah, I'm having good sex. Like there's almost an expectation. Oh, you're in a relationship, you're dating someone new. How's the sex? Oh, it's supposed to be good, right? So we kind of have this like narrow box that we are in where it's like, okay, cool. We can talk about these things, but then often we kind of end up fudging the truth around those things too, because it's not okay to talk about, oh, well, the sex actually isn't very good and I don't know how to make it better, or this weird thing happened last night and I don't know how to feel about it. So I think that's kind of where the struggle is as soon as we feel like, well, I kind of need to go off that script, but I don't know how to.
And yeah.
Okay, so I'm curious about this now after hearing you say that, Xander. I'm 32. So a lot of my friends are in the process of dating and looking for somebody to spend their life with. Mm-hmm. And all of my friends have different sort of ideas of how important sex is to them. Some of them rank it on the bottom of their list. They want loyalty, they want financial stability, whatever it is that they're looking for. And my mom's going to kill me for saying this, but I rank it really high on my list. It's really important to me. And my mom is like, always like, that is not the most important thing. You have to think like, you're not going to care about that when you're 60. Think about other things when you're looking for a life partner. So what do you two say?
I think this is a question that everybody's going to have different answers to, but I think it is absolutely valid to have sex very high up there on the list. I mean, obviously I'm a little biased here, but mom, listen up. It's totally valid. But I think, I think your mom might be thinking about it in that way I was describing earlier, that it's like, it's just a physical act and it's just about having an orgasm. And, we can really compartmentalize it. But if we look at sex as an expression of love, as as us sharing energy and expressing ourselves with each other, then I think it takes on a very different kind of vibe. Like, I mean, I think I would compare it to, how does somebody express emotional intimacy? Like if we were to ask you, is it important to you that your partner tells you that they love you and gives you compliments and makes you feel seen and valued and appreciated? Like, I'm sure you would say, yes, that is important too. But I think those are things that we do with sex as well.
I mean, the other thing I wanted to say is, I think, your mom may be right that yes, when you reach a certain age or as you get older, the sex itself or maybe the frequency will become less important. But I would look at it the opposite way, in fact, which is that, well, if sex is important right now and you're focusing on investing in having really great sex, then imagine the level of connection that you will have by the time you reach 60. I mean, I'm just throwing 60 out there because you mentioned it. 60 doesn't mean anything in real life. Totally. But, imagine how close you'll feel. Imagine how many amazing memories you will have. Imagine all that energy that all that good sex will have created for you by then. So you will have something that is really meaningful by then. You'll have built it up over all those years.
I love that outlook. Thank you for sharing that. So you have a lot of really helpful information on your Instagram page. And I want to ask you about some of the terminology in there, because I think some of the terminology you used helped me kind of reimagine or redefine what was happening in my life. And I think my hope is that it'll do that for everybody listening. So what is dead bedroom? And what do you want people who might be experiencing shame around that to know?
Dead bedroom is a term for when a couple in a long-term relationship has gone for a very long time without having sex. So similar to a dry spell. With dead bedroom, people often use that term to describe like, it's a dry spell and I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not sure when or how we're going to get back to being intimate with each other. And we actually don't love the term dead bedroom because it implies a sense of permanence, like nothing ever comes back from being dead, right? Not in real life. But, we think that there are ways for couples, even if it feels like they're in a really tough place, to reconnect, to start slowly being intimate, to rebuild that connection with each other over time. So we absolutely think that there is hope in a lot of these kinds of situations.
So the next one is that there are two sex drive types, which I was fascinated to hear. So some people are spontaneous and others are responsive. What does that mean?
Yes. This is game-changing information. I'm really glad you picked up on this one in particular. So most people don't realize that there are two different sex drive types. We just think of sex drive as this thing that exists, like my shoe size is 5, my sex drive is, it should be a certain amount. But there are two different ways that we get turned on and excited and ready for sex. So mentally, the thought of sex sounds good. The idea of it sounds good. And we also get ready for sex in our bodies. So like physiological responses of our bodies getting ready and excited for sex. So the two types boil down to where you feel that desire first. So there's spontaneous desire, where you feel mentally interested in sex first, and then the bodily arousal follows. So this is how most people think sex drive is supposed to work, because this is what we see on TV and in the movies, right? It's like this random moment, sex pops into your head, you go find your partner type of thing. But there's also responsive desire, and research has found that more women tend to be responsive and more men tend to be spontaneous. The responsive desire is the exact opposite. Your body gets turned on first, and then mentally the idea of sex starts to sound good. So a classic way to know that you might be a responsive type is if you've ever been in the middle of sex or even at the end of sex, and you've caught yourself thinking, this is really fun. Why do I never seem to want this more often? That is responsive desire. So this is so important because most women who are responsive think of themselves as being low desire or no desire because they're not thinking about sex. It's not popping into their heads the way that they think it should. But that is not the case. You are not low desire. You're just responsive desire. You have to appeal to your body first before your head is going to start to think that sex is a good idea.
That is so fascinating. Because the idea, I think so much of your work flips, it like gets rid of the shame, right? Like the idea of thinking like, I don't have a lot of desire versus, oh, my desire shows up in a different way.
Yeah.
Is very cool.
Yeah. So it's really that you need to make space for your desire. You have to value your own well-being, or you have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, or that there's space in your schedule in order to feel desire. And I think like the reality is, in this day and age, life is really busy, and it's easy for us to just get totally booked up and totally scheduled and overwhelmed with things. And then on top of that, we start judging ourselves for like, well, why am I not just wanting sex all the time? And it's like, well, you're not wanting sex all the time because your time
you don't have the time for it.
You don't have the time for it.
But yeah, such a huge part of what we do is really wanting people to feel normal and to feel like they're not alone in something, because we don't talk about sex openly and honestly, it's so easy for us to feel like we're alone. And we've gotten this question, am I normal, from people? Like we get it every single day, and we've gotten it about some of the most normal seeming things. Like people will ask us, is it normal that I like making out for longer amounts of time with my partner? Is it normal that I want some foreplay before we have intercourse? So it's so easy for us to feel like whatever it is that we want or need or like, it's not normal.
I think what's hard is if you don't have a partner that's willing to explore with you, it's just hard to even know what you like or what is normal, quote unquote. So that's one of the things I've enjoyed about getting older.
In our book, Sex Talk, so we have these 5 crucial conversations that we think will transform any couple's sex life. And one of the conversations is pleasure. And so I tell the story in that chapter of messages that we've gotten from women who have male partners who have said some really messed up things about the female partner's pleasure. Like things like, well, it's just so much harder for you to orgasm. It's easy for me, so I just want to focus on me. Or like, I don't want to go down on you, or I don't feel like I should need to touch you. And so on the surface, these stories are heartbreaking. Like I remember reading them as we were writing the book and thinking like, oh my God, screw that guy. Like, how dare he? And it was really interesting though, because as we had more conversations with these women who were messaging us, what we found out was that a lot of their partners were operating with some really inaccurate information about sex. So there was one woman in particular who said, I felt inspired by watching your Instagram stories. I decided to have a conversation with my partner. And it turns out we both were raised in purity culture. So we both have all this shame around thinking that sex is not okay. My partner's only sex education that he ever got was around porn, and he never saw porn where the guy focused on the women's pleasure. And he always saw these messages that men were just supposed to be in control and taking the lead and focusing on themselves. And this is the idea that he started to get in his head of what a real man is. And so by having a conversation about it, they were able to realize oh, it's not that you're just being a raging jerk and you hate me and you don't want to focus on me at all. It's you've been wounded by all this inaccurate information and lack of education. And then it turned into a bonding moment for the two of them of hey, we've both been wounded in these ways. And let's be a team together. Let's actually be teammates in making sure that we both have enjoyable experiences.
Yeah. I mean, so many men, not so many, men in general are socialized to feel like we're supposed to be competent. We're supposed to know what we're doing. We really, there's the whole stereotype, men won't ask for directions, right? They'll drive around for half an hour totally lost because they don't want to ask for directions. And that gets really problematic with sex if you think, well, I'm supposed to be in charge. I'm supposed to give her an orgasm and I'm supposed to know everything, but somehow but no one ever taught me how. So somehow I'm supposed to figure it out and know and not ask for help. And so, especially as you get years and years into a long-term relationship, that can just end up manifesting in you having a really narrow, predictable sex life because you do the things that you think work the best, or you do the things that work the best for your last partner, which have nothing to do with what works best for this partner. And you think you're doing the right thing and you're feeling good. And then all of a sudden, but then your partner is kind of silently sitting there oh, this is not working for me. What is wrong?
Yeah. I think part of the problem is you don't know what you don't know. So opening up the conversation and reading your books is probably really helpful to give people prompts to.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're super into being practical.
Yeah.
There's so many things with sex where it's I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what are the options. A classic question that comes up is if you've ever had a partner ask you in the middle of sex, what do you want? Most of us freeze up in the moment. We're can I see a menu of options? I'm not sure.
Right.
We really wanted to create this book that would actually be a conversation opener for people and not just this generic advice, just talk about it. So we have so many exercises in the book where it's okay, here are the 11 sex personality types. Which one do you think you are and why? Or here's this whole menu of things that you could do together in the bedroom. And you're both going to go through it and mark yes, no, maybe for each thing and talk about that. So we give you the specifics rather than just the generic, talk about it.
I love that. I have a card deck of 52 questions that I made because I feel the same way. It's people want deep conversation, but sometimes you don't know how to spark it. You need a prompt. So I'm very
exactly. I know who hasn't sat around at a dinner party or something thinking think of something to say. Think of something to say. I need something interesting to say.
Yes.
That happens with us. Yeah. During sex too.
Yeah. Okay. So does this, because I always say the most interesting thing is to be interested. So do you feel that way too during sex? Is it if you don't know what you want, start asking questions to your partner? Is that fair?
I like the vibe of that for sure. Curiosity is one of our favorite words. We think if people were more curious about their sex life, it would just lead to so much better sex. But there are some nitty-gritty specifics here. So sometimes asking questions in the middle of sex can feel like it really puts your partner on the spot. That example that I just mentioned, if a partner asks what do you want next? It just feels a little bit too much, or tell me what you want me to do to you. It's I don't know. I'm just in the moment. So in general, and especially if a couple has never really talked about sex with each other before, or they're not comfortable with it yet, we recommend talking about it separate from the act. And so we have all these different exercises and sex talks about specific times and ways to talk about it. Yeah. And then you build up the comfort and the confidence to be more communicative in the moment.
So I put out on Instagram that I was going to interview you all. And I do that once in a while when I ask for questions from the audience. I've never had more submissions in my whole life. So they are all anonymous. However, they were really good questions. So I'm just going to go through them with you.
Love it. We love a good community question.
Yeah, this is definitely community questions. So somebody said, I feel like I'm the one who always initiates sex. How do I get him to initiate more?
Great question. Tell him that you want him to initiate. This is a very common theme that comes up. A lot of us, like, we want our partners to be mind readers outside the bedroom too. Like we always see that fairy tale version of relationships. Like, oh, he knows me better than I even know myself. And this can come up with sex too, where we just want our partner to know what to do and just do it. And that is sadly not how humans work. We need to be told. So a lot of times, and again, this is all about why talking about sex is so important. If you're not talking about it, your partner might think like, oh, the more respectful thing for me to do is not initiate. Like I let her come to me, or maybe like you turned him down in the past and he's like, I don't want her to feel pressured or guilty. So I'm going to let her tell me when she wants sex.
Or maybe he was in a relationship with someone else in the past where he had a way higher sex drive than his partner did. And so, he came away with that feeling like, oh, well, guys just always have a higher sex drive. So I better not ask because it's going to be, disrespectful. It's going to shine a light on the fact that I want it more than she does. So I'll just wait for her. There's so many reasons why.
So to get practical, whenever you want to suggest or request something from your partner, always frame it in a positive way. So with your partner, like tell him, you know what? I think it's so sexy when you initiate. It makes me feel really desired, or it makes me feel so excited whenever you do it. And then get specific too. So give your partner like 2 or 3 specific ways that he could initiate that would turn you on. So this is going to give him, like, if he doesn't have the confidence to initiate, or there's some reason, like this is going to make him feel so much better because he has specific ways that he can do it. It's like he's already won.
I love that. I have a friend named AJ who works with CEOs and CMOs on their leadership. And he has this phrase called light and bright. And I talked to him one time because I was in a situation with a guy and it wasn't going well. And he was like, stop being annoyed with him. Be light and bright.
Yes.
So I love the idea of framing it positively and being light and bright.
Yeah, especially with sex, nobody responds well to being criticized or critiqued about, or, hearing a complaint about sex. Nobody. It's like a one-way ticket to getting defensive and your feelings getting hurt. So instead, if we find ways to ask for more of what we want or what we like, you're going to have so much more success with that.
So this viewer, community member said, I've never squirted. Is it normal not to? And before we go into that, I did read on your Instagram that this, the whole squirting thing is one of your most common questions from your community, which I'm shocked that that's the case.
Yes, it's such a big thing. And I think because we're seeing it so much more in porn, people are getting this idea of, oh, squirting is something that I'm supposed to do. So what squirting is the expulsion of fluid out of a woman or a vulva owner's urethra. So just like men and penis owners ejaculate, women are capable of doing that as well. The thing that's really important to know, though, is squirting is not an orgasm, and an orgasm is not squirting. So you can have one without the other. And the vast majority of women who squirt say that it doesn't actually feel pleasurable. Like it feels either neutral. A lot of women will say it's actually a really big pain in the butt because it, gets liquid all over the place. We have to stop and clean up the bed, or it soaks the mattress. So I think a lot of women are feeling this pressure that they're supposed to squirt. And a lot of times, some people have this misconception that it's not a real orgasm unless you've squirted, or squirting is a sign that it was a next level orgasm.
It's not.
It's not. It's just a completely separate process, nothing to do with pleasure, nothing to do with orgasm. So we have a very limited amount of science on this. So we don't know, are all women even capable of squirting? it seems likely that we are, but currently only a very small number of women do squirt. So bottom line is you don't need to perform in this way. Like it's not something that you have to do. If your body does it, that's cool. If your body doesn't do it, that is also cool. But again, it has nothing to do with orgasm.
This person says, I miss the early stages of dating when we had sex all the time. I miss the new relationship energy. How do we get that back?
We get new relationship energy back by putting new relationship energy into the relationship.
Yeah,
What does that mean?
Yeah, like that same type of effort that we put in at the beginning of a relationship.
Yeah, people always remark back about those early days of dating. And it's really interesting to take a look at, like, how were you showing up during that time? And for the vast majority of us, like, we put a lot of energy and effort into it, into like trying to be the best versions of ourselves and trying to interact with our partner in the best ways, like showing them appreciation and saying nice things to them and spending quality time with them, doing unique and different things with them during that quality time. So, for some people, like, that energy might not feel sustainable. Like, maybe you have, you have a life and there are other things that you're doing. That's okay. But I think it's so important for us to recognize, like, that stage felt that way because of our effort. It wasn't a magical, it was just happening that way. We were putting in effort. So if you miss that, bring back some of that effort. What are the things that you used to do that you miss doing? What are the version of yourself that you used to be that you're not really being anymore? So you can always get back that energy if you want to.
Yeah, we're not saying that you need to put in the same level of effort, because I think very early in a relationship, sometimes we put in a lot of effort, maybe like a dangerous amount of effort, like I know for me, you kind of like neglect your job, maybe you neglect your friends or whatever. So we're not saying that, but I think it's so easy for us to fall into this trap of sort of like looking at like the work we put into a relationship as like, oh, well, I put in this work to get into the committed relationship. And then as soon as we're committed, as soon as I put a ring on it, then it's like, it's locked down. I take my foot off the gas. I don't need to do anything anymore. And I think that's a dangerous mindset to get into.
So keep your foot on the gas.
Keep your foot on the gas. Keep throwing logs onto the fire.
And if we could just get specific, it's different for everybody, but does that mean sending sweet texts in the middle of the day or making someone their favorite meal? Like, what does that consist of?
So this is another great homework exercise that anybody can do. If you're in a committed relationship, ask your partner, what are the 5 things that I could do or have done that make you feel the closest to me, the most connected to me?
And I think the interesting thing that most people find is that those things that move the needle the most are often really simple, small things. It's easy to get into our head and be like, oh God, like they're telling me I have to plan a huge like vacation to Europe, or like,
couples retreat.
Yeah, couples retreat, or the 7-course meal at that super fancy restaurant. And yeah, those things can be nice, but the reality is that there's very often little tiny things that we can do that are just as meaningful, if not more meaningful. So one example of that is Vanessa loves compliments. And I'm not like, compliments are not my love language personally. So like, I don't really default to thinking about that. But one time I just kind of accidentally or maybe jokingly said something like, oh, babe, you're really killing it at blah, blah, blah. I don't even know what I said. And her face totally lit up. And I was like, what is going on? Like, did I say something? Like, I don't get it. And she's like, oh my God, I like when you say those words, you're killing it at whatever, you could insert anything in the blank there. Like, it just makes her day. And so I had to create a habit of, if I give her little compliments throughout the day, she is so happy and we feel so connected. And so it was just a matter of me, like, I literally set reminders on my phone, give Vanessa a compliment, because it didn't come naturally to me. And now after maybe a month of doing that, it is supernatural, and I give her compliments all the time. So you have to find what those things really are with your partner, but that means you have to talk about it.
So Xander, what do you request from Vanessa?
I request unrequested hugs.
If I just come up and give him a hug out of nowhere. He's like, oh my God, that's so nice. Why did you want to hug me? He gets just the same way I get stupid excited about the compliment. He gets stupid excited about the hug.
He's smiling right now. That's very sweet.
He's just thinking about it. I'll give him a hug when we finish recording.
Feels so good.
So this question blew my mind. And I'm going to be honest, I have done this in a previous relationship. So I made a vow to myself not to do it again, but I'm very curious what you have to say. So this person wrote in, I've been in a relationship for 3 years. We have incredible sex. 60% of the time, I fake an orgasm because if I'm being honest, I can only get there when I'm on top and bent over, and it's not fun for anyone to have sex one way all of the time. So I just fake it. I'm starting to feel like a liar. And if we get married, where does this all lead? Do I fake it forever? Maybe I do. I feel like there's this weird line between having a creative, open, amazing sex life and being honest. Can the two go hand in hand?
Oh, great question. So first, I want to validate I have faked as well. I struggled. I learned how to orgasm on my own, but I really struggled basically my entire sex life before I met Xander to get there with a partner. And
yeah, you couldn't even do it in one position.
I faked so many orgasms for so long and in a lot of committed relationships. So I get that feeling of like, you start off doing it because it feels like the best possible solution for that. But then you get a certain point into it and it catches up to you and you think like, oh my God, what do I do here? How do I back my way out of this?
You have to keep doing it because you kind of your partner thinks that you can do it. And
So I do think it is really important for, if you're at the beginning of a relationship, don't set yourself up for this. Like, just be honest about your orgasm. I know it's challenging, but it really is the best. But if you have been faking for a while, there are ways to like work around it as well. And to start to reframe your sex life, kind of start over again. And the great news with this question is that she has a way that she can orgasm. So it's not like she's been faking every single one. So to her question, when I heard it's not fun to have sex in the exact same way every single time, I think if you've found the thing that works for you, there's no shame in that. And that doesn't mean that sex needs to just look like it's just in her on top and bent over. Maybe they do all sorts of other creative, fun, playful things, and then they end up in that position for her to orgasm. So it doesn't need to be, this kind of black or white way that she's thinking of it. There are ways to do that. And also just from a more technical standpoint about the orgasm itself, if you can learn how to orgasm in one way, you can learn how to orgasm in a lot of ways. It's not like that we just get one way. That's the only thing we can do. But what tends to happen is people, if we only are ever orgasming in that way, we're basically carving neural pathways in our brain that sort of just train our brain of this is what happens to lead to the orgasm.
Wow.
So you can orgasm in other ways. It's just going to take a little bit of time and practice. So I'd have her start practicing on her own, in different positions, using different forms of stimulation. It's going to take some time because her brain is so used to doing it in that specific way, but she will be able to train herself to orgasm in other ways too.
That's very cool. I have a weird question. Is the goal of sex every time to orgasm, or is it kind of crazy to ask, would it be okay if not she or her partner, either one of them didn't orgasm and that wasn't the point of sex that time?
You have such great questions. So yeah, I think most of us have it in our heads that we're supposed to orgasm and sex isn't successful unless we've orgasmed, but we don't think that's true. So our motto is everyone who wants an orgasm gets an orgasm. So we think it's very important for partners to be teammates and for us to care about each other's experience. If Xander wants to have an orgasm, I am making sure that we work together as a team for him to have an orgasm.
And same for Vanessa.
Yes. But there are plenty of times and plenty of reasons why you might want to be intimate with your partner, but you don't necessarily care to have an orgasm. So maybe we have times where we have sex where I'm I'm not necessarily super in the mood myself, but I feel good connecting with you and, being intimate with you. So let's make it a little bit more about you tonight. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it is fun to even have nights where it's all about you. And then the next night it's all about me. sometimes people are like, I feel enough satisfaction and enjoyment that like, I don't need to have the orgasm. The fine line here though, is you want to make sure that it's you saying, I actively don't want an orgasm versus no, it's fine. I don't need to. Because especially as women, we get a lot of BS socialization that like, it's too complicated for us to orgasm. It takes too long. It takes too much effort. So there are a lot of women who are like, no, it's fine. I don't need it. It's okay. Don't worry about me.
If you're saying it's fine, it's probably not
if you're
fine.
saying it's fine, it's not fine.
We kind of have this thing where if one of us says, oh, it's fine, the other one will get, okay, do you want to rephrase that?
Yeah, what do you really mean?
Fine pretty much means it's not fine.
We don't allow that phrase in or out of the bedroom. It's like, no, let's really talk about what's going on. So yeah, as long as you feel good about like, yeah, I feel satisfied having sex without an orgasm, that's fine. But
like you're not gonna later resent your partner for that decision.
Yeah,
that's a great rule. I usually don't like rules, but I like that rule.
Yeah.
So this is interesting too. My sexual fantasies are weird and specific. I'm super comfortable with my partner, but I feel uncomfortable bringing some of them up. Are there certain fantasies you're supposed to keep to yourself? If not, how do I open up this conversation? And what if he looks at me differently forever?
Oh, that's another good one. So in general, like I think a big dynamic that comes up for us is that we tend to judge our fantasies and we worry that it like means something about us if we have a certain fantasy. But most fantasies are really very random. Like, so sometimes I will work with a client and they'll say something like, my parents wore a lot of leather when I was growing up. And now I have this like thing about leather. So like,
which feels weird that it's connected to their parents, that's the hard part.
It's like, sometimes you can find a connection, but a lot of the times it's like, it's a very random, like, I don't know where the heck I got this in my head, but it's in my head.
Yeah, like it doesn't say anything about who you are or like something that happened to you as a child or whatever.
Yeah, like we love food, so we make a lot of food comparisons. And I always say, like, do you judge yourself for liking mushrooms or for loving blue cheese?
Right.
Like, no, we don't think, it doesn't mean anything about me as a person that I like mushrooms. So with fantasies, like, I think it's important for us to look at it the same way. So most people feel like they have weird fantasies, but the reality is that they're actually very, common fantasies.
And also this person said specific and kind of combined with weird as this problematic thing. I mean, I want to invite this person to reframe that as, hey, if you have a very specific fantasy, that's great. You know exactly what is exciting. You don't need to play around with it. A lot of people are like, oh, yeah, I think I might be into this idea, but I'm not really sure exactly what it is. In this case, this person knows exactly what it is. Like it's, in theory, that will be easier to play out with a partner if you know exactly what you want.
And our vibe when it comes to fantasies is that as long as everyone involved is enthusiastically consenting adults, anything goes. Like there is no right or wrong here. So what I would advise this person is to, kind of rank your fantasies in order of how vulnerable you feel sharing them, and start with the ones that feel the easiest to share with your partner. Share those fantasies with them and see how your partner responds. So start with some of the easier ones. And ways that I like introducing fantasies are saying that you had a dream about something. You can say like, I had this dream about this thing last night and I did not really think that I would be into it, but it was pretty hot in the dream. And I'm just kind of curious to know what you think. Like there are ways of kind of, you tell a little bit of a white lie around it, just in service of you opening up and having a conversation. Or if it feels okay, you can just come right out and say, like, I really trust you and I love you. And I want to tell you a fantasy that I've never really trusted anybody to share before. And that here it is. So again, start with those fantasies that feel easier for you to share and see how your partner responds. And then you can work your way up into the more complex ones from there.
Okay. I have a follow-up question on this because my therapist she never really goes on a rant about anything. And about a year ago, she spent an entire session that I didn't want to spend talking about what she said. She like thinks that porn is ruining American people. And after she said that, I heard a lot of other people say it in different ways. So I started doing some research and I forgot what it's called. Incest. So incest porn has been increasingly of interest to people, if that's how we put it, over the years, which makes me think about fantasies. Like if there's shame in fantasies, that's a weird fit. Like that is.
Yeah.
Well, like, I don't even know how to ask this, but what do you make of that? And what do you think about porn in that way?
Yeah, a lot of time we develop fantasies around things that feel taboo and forbidden to us. So sometimes people will have fantasies about things that are very normalized in culture. Like a great example is having a threesome, where threesomes are pretty common. I think most people feel like comfortable with them, but there's this element of it feeling like, oh, that's taboo. We're supposed to be monogamous. We're not supposed to bring another person in. And so that feeling of it being taboo can make it feel more exciting. Obviously with incest, you're talking about something that's like illegal. And so for some people that can feel extra exciting. And yeah, porn is such a complex topic. It's, we could do a whole other episode just about that. And for me as a sex therapist, what I come back to is like the basic reality of like watching other people have sex. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Of course it's a turn on. Like that's why we have sex scenes on movies and in TV all the time. Like it's exciting to watch other people have sex. Of course, though, the porn industry is so complex and there are so many issues with the types of porn that are being made and also with the ways people are consuming porn. So, it is very possible to have a healthy relationship with porn, and it's very possible to have an unhealthy relationship with porn. So it's just, there are no easy answers here, but it's a very, very complex issue. And yes, it is absolutely causing a lot of harm in a lot of people's lives.
I took a few gender studies classes in college, and a lot of the professors would talk about how porn was always from the male perspective. And that was one of the issues, right? It's always about male pleasure. So, yeah.
Yeah. So there are some producers who are really trying to create different kinds of porn, like porn that's more diverse, porn that's, respectful of the actors involved and showing respect on the screen as well. There's an umbrella term for it called ethical porn, and there's no like certifications for this or anything like that, but there are people who are trying really hard to create better porn.
This one was interesting. This person said, I've had about 20 sexual partners. I'm 34. Is that a lot?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I don't think that there's no judgment from either of us about how much is a lot or a little when it comes to our numbers. But this is something that most of us do feel a lot of shame and judgment around. But what I always think is fascinating about somebody's number is that if you really break down like the logistics of it, like let's say you have sex with a new person once a month, like that doesn't seem that wild or unusual or anything like that, but that's 12 a year, and that number could snowball very quickly. Like you're sexually active for more than 1 year, right? So it's very easy for us to get high numbers. At the end of the day, like as a sex therapist, I don't care what people's numbers are. All that I care about is how they feel about their numbers. And I mean, let's be realistic here too. Like I've slept with people that now looking back on, I'm like, okay, maybe I wish I hadn't necessarily slept with them, or if I could go back and put myself in my shoes again, like maybe I would make a different decision. And so it's not that you're going to get to a place where you feel 100% confident about all of your choices, but you just want to get an overall vibe that the majority of the time I feel like I'm making decisions that are respectful of me and of other people, and I'm having good experiences. If you have that, then who cares what the actual number is?
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is like we kind of have this focus on the number like earlier on, in our, I don't know, like teens and 20s. But the reality is that depending on the way our life shakes out in terms of, are we in monogamous relationships? How long are we in monogamous relationships? Are we in open relationships? Are we single? Like all those things are going to impact that. So there's no one size fits all, like, oh, well, this is a normal number. Like I would just expect that to vary as a function of the choices that you have made, or, the way that life has shaken out for you in terms of partners or not that you've had.
There's this interesting aspect for women with this. Like online, I hear it called body count a lot. But there's like a misogyny there.
Oh yeah.
Like I remember I had a friend who was like went on a few dates with a guy, and she was like, I really like him. I want to sleep with him, but like, I don't want my number to go up. And I remember thinking like, what?
Oh yeah.
That is so wild.
Yeah, I think for men, there's this idea that, the more people you've slept with, the better. It's like another notch in the bedpost is a sign of, a symbol of pride, something to be like excited about. And for women, it's this sense that we lose something every time we have sex. Like we've given ourselves a piece of ourselves to somebody. And so I think if you're feeling guilty about your number, that's a great opportunity to kind of get yourself a little bit fired up about the patriarchy and the misogyny in this. Like, why is it that I've lost something, but this guy has gained something? Like, that's not fair.
Can I ask you to start a campaign against the term lose your virginity?
Oh, yes. We have a different term that we love.
Oh my God, I knew I loved you guys. What do you
Yes, you don't lose anything. We like to call it making your sexual debut.
I love this because you don't lose anything. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, you make your debut.
Okay, so before we do rapid fire about you two personally, one last question. And this person writes in, I'm 28. How does sex change in every decade? 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s? Is there anything you can give me to look forward to?
Oh, there's so much to look forward to. I think we have this idea that sex is supposed to be the hottest, like in your 20s, because you're young and, excited. But
it's all downhill from there.
It's all downhill from there. But sex can really get so much better as you get older. I think one of the big things that comes up for people is developing more body confidence. Like our 20s and 30s, most of us just feel obsessed with our bodies and about our bodies fitting into this very narrow window of what they're supposed to look like. And a lot of people tell us in their 40s, 50s, 60s, beyond, there's just this feeling of like, this is my body. And I don't really care about all that BS that I used to care about anymore. And so there's this freedom that comes along with, well, we're having sex and I don't have to worry about, oh, is my belly pooch like pooching out in this position, or my boobs are sliding into my elbows in this position. So there's a freedom that comes along with that. I think there's also a sense of trust and safety in a partner. Like the longer that you're together, you can just start to feel really comfortable being more of your authentic selves with each other. So that's something that we hear about from people a lot as well.
I think also as you get older, you hear more and more from people who say that eventually they get more comfortable just asking for what they want or saying what it is that they need. So as you get older, you are more likely to be having sex that is going to be better for you. What I do want to caveat there is that you're never going to just wake up one day and be like, oh, screw it. Today's the day that I can easily say what I want. It's just that people over time, eventually tend to kind of get fed up with things not being so good for them. So, if the person asking this question is hoping for like, oh, well, once you hit 40, then naturally, it just gets easier. Like I would encourage you to start thinking about what is it that you want? How could you start asking for that, in smaller ways and get more comfortable with that? Because you have the whole rest of your life then to be able to start getting that and having that and enjoying things more.
I love that perspective. Thank you both. So a little rapid fire. What's a great gift that you've given to one another?
Xander gave me this ring that I wear on my right hand. It was just a really symbolic ring at a really key moment in our relationship. And so it has a lot of meaning. Yeah, I know what your answer is. It's not as meaningful, but it is. It's just in a different way.
Vanessa gave me for my birthday one year, I think it was my birthday or Christmas or something. She gave me a framed and signed Joe Montana jersey, which was pretty awesome. I've been a 49ers fan my whole life.
That's very cool. What is your go-to piece of relationship advice, even if it's like a saying, a mantra, something that comes into your head often?
I like just telling people to make their own rules. I think maybe we're similar in this way. Like, I don't like this idea of all these rules that we're supposed to follow. And, we are all so unique. There are 8 billion of us. There's no rule that's going to work for everybody. So I think it's so much more fun and exciting and feels so much more personal when you take the time to think about, like, what are the rules that I want to live my life by?
Yeah, mine would be like a variation of that, which is just like question everything. Like obviously everything
That's
that
the card
Vanessa,
deck.
yeah,
Thank you very much, Xander, for my plug.
Yeah, perfect. But yeah, I mean, like everything she said, like, yeah, you should question all those things. But for me, a lot of it was like just questioning the ways that I've been socialized, like as a guy, of like, oh, like I'm supposed to know how to do everything. Like I'm not supposed to know how to do everything. Like I'm allowed to ask for help. I'm allowed to get curious about stuff. I'm allowed to say, I don't know the answer. So I think that that's super powerful for me.
I've actually been thinking about that a lot. I heard somebody say curiosity over criticism.
Mhm.
And so every time I feel that ping of like, I don't like that, I try and switch it to curiosity.
Curiosity is one of my favorite words.
And I think that there's a power in being able to say that you don't know the answer to something.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's been one of the huge life-changing things for me, is like for so much of my life, I was, taught and socialized that like my value is being competent in things. But then the reality is, no matter how competent you are, you're going to run into issues that you just don't know how to deal with. And being able to just say, I don't know. Curious what other people think. I need to get some help. I need to get some advice. That it's so freeing. And then it's like it takes the pressure off of you too.
Yeah. What is, Vanessa, you're going to like this because of the compliment aspect, but what is something the other person's really good at that you don't tell them often enough?
Xander is really good. I tell you this often, but he's really good at making me laugh. And I think that's one of my favorite things about our relationship, is just how much laughter there is with each other. I think it's very easy for life to feel serious and heavy and hard. And I love that in our relationship, we can be so playful and funny with each other. And some of my favorite memories with Xander are just the most ridiculous, stupidest things, but I love the way that he makes me laugh.
And I love how thoughtful Vanessa is. She's so thoughtful when it comes to like giving gifts, even though I don't remember what they are. She's really thoughtful with giving gifts to other people. Like she's always thinking about like, oh, what would be a good gift for this person? Or like, what would be a good compliment for this person? Like she's incredible with all, like all of our team members and calling out areas that they're doing a great job. And just like, yeah, I think she's just really thoughtful and good at anticipating like, what someone might need or what someone might want to hear.
That's so kind. Oh, she got happy.
I know, you saw that.
That was cute. Okay. The last quick ones are, what is a book that changed your life that everybody should read?
Can I say our book? Like, writing it. I mean, seriously, writing our book changed my life. Like we had a lot of conversations in the process of writing it that we'd never had before. And it just was a truly life-changing process. So Sex Talks, but I'll share another one as well, because I'm going to go with a fiction book since Sex Talks is nonfiction. I love this book called Special Topics in Calamity Physics by Marisha Pessel. It's just it's written in a very interesting way. It's not like just a straightforward, fiction story. There's all sorts of little twists and turns and illustrations and notes and stuff like that. And it just like that book, more so than maybe any other book I've read, just delighted me in reading it. So I thought it was a very fun experience.
All right, I'll give 2 because Vanessa did. One like practical,
one is our book.
One is practical and one is impractical, and neither is our book. So the impractical, I love science fiction. I just like how science fiction gets me thinking about things of like, oh, what could things be like in the future if this happened or if that happened. So my favorite sci-fi is the Mars trilogy by Kim Stanley Robinson. I can just read those books over and over, and it always gives me something to think about. And then in a more practical sense, I really loved Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Just the idea of like how inspiration and how ideas come to you, and sort of like ideas and intuition. And that really helped me sort of with reframing my mindset around creativity. I used to think that I wasn't really a creative person, and that book totally changed that around for me and made me realize, oh no, I am creative. It's just a matter of inviting the creative ideas to stay with me.
I have to tell you how much I appreciate that, because I read something the other day about how women are interested in everybody and men are interested in stories from other men. And the fact that you would read a story written by Elizabeth Gilbert, who is like very feminine, is so beautiful. And I cannot like thank you and affirm you enough for that. That's very cool.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, I do a question everything card. So you guys tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Ooh, what game have you spent the most hours playing?
Probably for me, Rummikub. My family is obsessed with Rummikub, and they're scary good at it too.
That's
like
funny.
it's a simple game. It's a very simple game, but
it's not simple when
it's
you're
not.
playing with her family.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
When you're playing with experts.
I have a lot of good memories of some savage games of Rummikub. So probably that.
For me, probably Monopoly. I played Monopoly a lot when I was a kid, and everyone knows Monopoly games can go on for days.
They can. You have to like stop and say, we're going to eat dinner. We'll come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's a problem when people are getting like loans from the bank and stuff like that. It's like, all right, come on.
So I ask everybody this at the end, and it's intentionally broad. So whatever comes to your mind, what is the smartest decision you've ever made?
Marrying you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I feel like I got really freaking lucky, and we've had tough times and we've had great times together. But a lot of times people ask me like, how did you know that he was the one? How did you know you wanted to get married? And I think what came up for me was like, I just knew I wanted to do life with him. I knew life was going to get hard and things would, tough stuff would come up, but I couldn't think of a better person that I would want to go through the roller coaster of life with than Xander.
So I 100% agree with her. I was going to say the same thing, but I will say as well, it was joining the business in like a 50-50 capacity. That was the best decision I ever made. It was something I grappled with for a very long time because I had my own fears around like, oh, well, like, what does it mean to be working with your partner? Or what if, because, before I'd been through a lot of jobs and had gotten burned out on jobs and was scared of like, oh, well, what would it mean? What if the same thing happens here? And how can you like quit a job that isn't your partner's business? But yeah, I worked through all those fears and I could not be happier with what we do together. It's pretty incredible.
You're bringing so much great stuff into the world together. So thank you for your time today.
Thanks.
I'm so glad you joined forces too.
Thank you so much.